Hello everyone, welcome to our very first online lesson in mathematics. I'm teacher David and today we're going to learn about square roots and its properties. Now before that, you have here a QR code. You can scan it out and you will arrive at the PDF for this file, or you can check our Google Classroom. I have uploaded the PDF file already. You can download it on your phone or iPad or whatever pad you have, and you can write your notes there. All right, but if you have your own physical notebook, paper and pencil, that would be awesome as well. You can write down your notes, your thoughts there, or you can download this PDF and you can write your notes here, and after the class you can send back your notes on your phone or take a picture on your notes on your paper, the printed one that you had, and then where you wrote your notes, and then send it back to our Google Classroom. Google Classroom, and then I'm going to check if you watch the whole video and did your notes there. Okay, it will be graded for your unit number 1. Okay, so let's start with our first requirement. Like what I said, you can have your own personal math notebook, pencil and eraser, or you can have your notes or sticky notes. That would really help for our lesson. Okay, and this requirement or these requirements will be applied to all the lessons here online. Okay, we have like 6 classes and you are required to have to prepare these requirements beforehand. Okay, and we have 3 objectives here. Okay, let me move my face there. All right, so you need to review square roots and absolute value. I know you learned already about square roots and absolute value when you were in Matayom 1. So today we're going to review some parts on absolute value, okay, and what you learned already about square roots. Determine how square roots work on numbers and variables. Of course, you learned already the basic ones, okay, so we're just going to tackle it or study it again. And for the variable part, you need a special concept, okay, so that you will arrive at the correct answer when you work with variables. And lastly, you will simplify square roots. Okay, let's have our vocab for today. Okay, our vocab for today, we have square root, principal root or root in short, negative square root, absolute value, positive, negative, square, variable. Again, let me repeat that. You have square root, principal root. Okay, for our class or for our Matayom 3, okay, we just say root instead of saying the principal root. It means to say the positive root of the square root. Okay, and you have negative square root, absolute value, positive, negative, square, and variable. Okay, let's review what you've learned in Matayom 1 about absolute value. Remember, absolute value is like the neutralization of the signs, or it is the distance from 0 to any number, regardless if it's positive or negative. For example, you have 3. Okay, the first example is 3. Now, how far is 3 from 0? Okay, let me write that down. Okay, you have, let's start with 0 here. Okay, 2, 3. Okay, so you have 1, 2, 3. So how far is 3 from 0? Okay, obviously you just count 1, 2, 3. Okay, and that's the answer. So the absolute value of 3 is 3. Now let's look at question number 2. The absolute value of negative 4. Okay, now the same question applies to negative numbers also. Okay, you have 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you have negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4. Now, same question. How far is negative 4 from 0? So you count backwards here. Okay, you don't count negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4. No. Okay. Direction is either positive or negative, but distance is always positive. So negative 4, its distance from 0 is equal to 4. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Like what I said, absolute value is the neutralization of signs. Now, you see here, it's 3. Here, it's 4. Here, it's 7. But the minus sign outside the absolute value sign here is not included to the absolute or to the neutralization of the absolute sign. What you will get, you have to write it first, okay, and you have to apply the absolute. All right, and that's it, negative 7. Now let's look at number 4. Okay, number 4 here, you have two absolute signs. Okay, you have this one, the outside, and the inside. Well, maybe you think like, oh, you have to simplify first the inside. That's correct. However, for our review today, we don't need. We just have to simplify or neutralize everything inside. So the answer here will be positive 3. Okay, very easy, very simple. All right, so let's look at number 5. Okay, so let's have number, let me make it bigger here. All right, now you have 8 plus negative 4 minus 10. Now we learned in Matayom 1 that if you have a minus sign here, you have to change this into a plus sign and make it into a negative, an integer. All right, now and then we were going to add all of them, the inside here, 8 plus negative 4 plus negative 10. So you will get negative 6. Okay, so 8 plus negative 4 is 4. 4 plus negative 10 is negative 6. Now we apply the absolute value, you will get 6. All right, so very easy, very simple. Okay, so maybe you have some questions regarding your absolute value, then you can ask directly in our classroom. All right, now let me put my face here. Okay, left and right side. Now we have the first concept here, signs of number. Okay, numbers are absolute. 1 is 1, you cannot change it. 2 is 2, you cannot change it. Negative 1 is negative 1. 3 is 3 or positive 3. It's the same thing. Minus 3 is minus 3. That's why we say that 3 is not the same as negative 3. Okay, now if you choose or if you want to express this in terms of the number line, okay, why they're not equal? Because 3 has its own place on the number line. Negative 3 has its own line also, or place on the number line. That's why they are not equal. All right, that's why our first concept here, numbers have their personal sign. Positive number is positive. Negative number is negative. Okay, you cannot change that. All right, so positive number has their own positive sign. Negative number has their own negative sign. And that is our concept number 1. So if you want to press a pause button to write in your notes, you can do that. Okay, so yeah, let's move to the next one. Second concept, x can be any number. Now, if it's any number, it can be either positive, a 0, or a negative. Okay, so let's say, for example, let x be equal to a positive 3. So what is the sign of x? X is a positive number because our x is equal to 3. So it means to say that the value of our x is positive. Now, it can happen that our x can be also a negative number. So it means to say that the value of the sign of our x is negative. Okay, So x can be any number. So x can be a positive number, right? Or it can be a negative number. All right. Okay. So it depends on the value that you have for your x or variable. Now, why absolute value? All right. So why do we need to use the absolute value? So because number one, we know that variables can be both positive and negative. Now, again, why do we use absolute value? Variables can be both positive and negative. Okay? And sometimes we only need the positive sign. Alright? So it means to say, alright? Okay, let's say, for example, you have an x squared here. Alright? And you want to get its square root. Okay, now, so let's say x here, okay, so the square root of x squared is equal to x. Okay, so maybe, oh, it's correct. Yeah, it's correct. But actually, no, it's not correct, because what if your x is 3? Oh, yeah, it's correct. Wow, good job. You have 3 squared, and your x here is 3. But what if x is a negative sign? Alright, so can we have negative 2 here? Yes? Right? Yes or no? Okay, so we need, okay, later on, okay, so I'll emphasize further that if you encounter this kind of problem, then you need to put an absolute sign, because we cannot have a negative answer. Why? All right, so that's a good question. Why it should be have an absolute sign? Now, let's say, for example, you have an x squared. Okay, this x squared here, all right, will neutralize any positive or negative sign. It works like an absolute value, because let's say, for example, all right, let's say, for example, your x is equal to negative 2. So x squared is negative 2 squared. Negative 2 squared is a positive number. Negative 2 times negative 2 is equal to positive number. Right? So when we process the number inside, okay, inside the square root here, everything here should be positive automatically. So it should be positive because there's a square. All right, so and based on our previous example, negative 2 squared. Okay, negative 2 squared. So the inside here should be positive 4, and the square root is 2. So going back to our previous example, okay, going back to our previous example. Now, if you don't put the absolute value sign, x squared is equal to x, and what if x is equal to negative 2? This one is equal to negative 2. So they are not the same. Alright? That's why this one is wrong. Okay? That's why we have to put the absolute value sign in this case, so that when you arrive at the negative answer, you can neutralize the sign and you will get 2 as our correct answer. Alright, so that's why we put absolute value when you encounter this problem. Alright, oops. Okay, so now All right, so let's have some example here. Okay, well, all of these are positive. Okay, so this is what I'm trying to explain to you. What if you have a square inside? I mean, you have a square outside. So if it's a square, all right, then everything inside will be neutralized as positive. For example, all right, you have the square of the root of a. Everything inside here will become positive. Okay, interesting, right? If you have a square here, regardless if it's positive or negative, everything here will become positive. Okay, so we have positive a. Square of the root of 3, everything will be positive. The square of the root of 7, everything will be positive. Negative, there's a square outside, it will be positive 2 over 5. All right, and we have a square of the negative root of 0.09. We have the positive 0.09. Again, regardless of what's inside the square, everything will be positive. Okay, now let's have our square root. Okay, now you learned already that 36 is equal to 6 times 6. All right, square root or root of 6 times 6. So we look for that root 6. Okay, now we will simplify that lesson with, if you have a root and a square, you cancel them out together. Okay, I know you have you learned this already when you're in M2. So what we do is review this lesson, okay, and so that we can apply this to our next lesson. Now you have the root of 36. Now we need to calculate, or we need to simplify the root of 36. Okay, so the root of 36 is the same as the root of 6 squared. Okay, so we cancel the root, we cancel the square, so we will have 6. Okay, very simple. Okay, so let's look at the example number 2. Okay, calculate negative root 49. Okay, we change the 49 here into a square. Negative root 7 squared. Now we cancel the root, we cancel the square. What's left here is, or what's outside here is negative. Okay, so we have minus 7 or negative 7. Okay, so negative root of 49 is equal to negative 7. Okay, very easy. Now, okay, like what we are talking about. Okay, now on your notes, calculate the root of the square of negative 11. Okay, so let me write that one so you will know how to read this. So this is the root of the square of negative 11. All right, now everything here will become positive. 121. Positive 121. Okay, so it should be neutralized. Right, so we will write the question here. Okay, now this will become 121. Okay, so you can have it 11 squared instead. Okay, we cancel the root, the square, so we'll have 11. Very easy. Ta-da. Okay, so again, when you have a square, you neutralize the sign inside. the parentheses or the quantity. Okay, now let's look at example number 4. Let's calculate the root of 4 over 9. Okay, the first thing we have to do is rewrite the problem. Okay, equals, then we will change this into a square and this one as a square, so we can put them together as 2 over 3 square. Now we cancel the square and the root. You will get 2 over 3, and very easy. Okay, right, now let's move on to our example number 5. Calculate negative root of the square of negative 0.04. Now we write the same problem. Okay, now this negative here is outside, so we have to write it first, negative. All right, now remember, everything inside the square will be neutralized. All right, so we will get 0.04 squared. Okay, interesting, right? Now we have to write the minus sign first. Okay, so you write that one down, and then we cancel out the square and the root. You will get 0.04. Therefore, negative root of the square of negative 0.04 is equal to negative 0.04. All right, now let's move on to example number 6. Simplify the root of 4x squared when x is greater than 0. Okay, when you have x greater than 0, okay, you learn in Matayom 1 that if a number is greater than 0, it's a positive number. Okay, so it means to say x can be any positive number. All right, so we don't need to put the absolute value sign. X cannot be minus or negative because here, okay, your x here is greater than 0. So what we do, we write the root 4x squared first, okay, and then we change it into a square to x squared. We cancel the square and the root, you will get 2x. No need for absolute sign, okay, because x is a positive number. Here we have 2x. All right, let's move on to example number 7. All right, so example number 7, we need to simplify this. Okay, so let's check out. Do we have a given here that p is a positive number? No, we don't have. Q? No, we don't have. Meaning to say that p here can be a positive number or a negative number. Same thing with q. So it can be a positive number or a negative number. All right, now we write the question down first. Okay, now we will change this into a square. All right, so we will get, right, 5 p q to the power of 4. Now if you want to check it down, you have to square this. Oops, sorry, forget the square. All right, square 5 square 25, correct? P squared, correct? Q to the power of 4 squared, q to the power of 8, correct? All right, so all of these are correct. Okay, now we will cancel out the square and the root. Now look what will happen. 5 absolute value of p q to the power of 4. All right, because p here can be a negative number, but we need to have a positive result because we have a square already. Okay, so when we square something, it becomes a positive number. Okay, now let's move on to the final answer here. 5 absolute value of p q to the power of 4. Okay, let's move on to example number 8, and I think this is the last example that we have for the examples. All right, we write the question. the root of 1.69, m to the power of 4, and to the power of 12. All right, and then we will change it into a square. 1.3 m squared n to the power of 6 squared. Now, maybe you're going to think, do we need absolute value on m squared? No, because you square it, the result here, so it will still be positive. N to the power of 6, do you need an absolute value sign? No, also because n to the power of 6 is a positive number. Okay, so when you raise it to the power of 6, the result is a positive number. Okay, so your answer here will be 1.3 m squared n to the power of 6. Okay, 1.3 m squared n to the power of 6. Now maybe you're going to ask me, when should we write the absolute value? Okay, so when should we write the absolute value? Okay, so when should we write the absolute value? Now we write the absolute value. Okay, sorry about this one. Should be RIT. Okay. Oh, we have I here. Okay, so when should we write the absolute value? Okay, now based on our example, okay, the root of x squared, we put an absolute value sign when we have x only, but we didn't write absolute value on m to the power of 4. Okay, we didn't write because, let's say for example, m is -2. So when you have -2 squared, this will become a positive 4. So yeah, it's a correct answer because it's positive. Now let's say for example you have x to the power of 6. Okay, x to the power of 6, and then you will have x to the power of 3. Now let's say for example your x is equal to -1. So -1 to the power of 3 is -1. Oh no, so this is wrong. So this is the time that you have to put the absolute value symbol. Okay, so when you have an absolute value symbol, then you have a positive 1. So this is correct. All right, so in short, when the result, okay, when the result has an odd exponent. Again, when should we write the absolute value? When the result has an odd exponent. Okay, so let's say for example, x squared x. So this is an odd exponent, so we put absolute sign. And let's have another one, x to the power of 6, no, this one. So we have x to the power of 3. We put absolute value sign. Root of x to the power of 10, it has an odd exponent, this one. So we put absolute value sign. Alright, so when should we write the absolute value? When the result has an odd exponent. Okay. Alright, let's simplify this. Alright, if you want, you can answer on your own on your PDF file, write in your note, and then check your answer. You can forward the video, and then you will have the answer. Okay, but if you want to watch along, you can watch along and work with me to simplify the following square roots. Okay, now we don't have any given here that the variables are positive or negative. Okay, so let's start simplifying. You have a square root 11. Next one, everything here will become positive. Okay, so we cancel the square. Okay, so everything here will become positive. Cancel the square. The root, you get 17. Number 3, your question here has a minus sign outside. Write the minus sign first. Cancel the square. The root, you'll get negative 35. And let's move on to number 4. You have a minus outside. Write the minus first. And this one, the square. Okay, so your minus here or negative here is inside the parenthesis. So this will become a positive number. So we cancel the square, cancel the root. So we have negative 140. Okay, very easy. Okay, let's move on to number 5. Oops. Okay, so we have 25 and over 112. Maybe you think, Teacher David, do we need to make this into a square? No need. We have a square already. Okay, so we cancel it out. And you will get 25 over 112. Like what I tell all my students, don't make your life complicated. Okay? Now you have a negative sign here inside the square. Change it to positive. Cancel the square, cancel the root, and you will get 71 over 84. Okay, let's move on. Example number 7. Okay, oh, there's a minus sign outside. Write it first. Cancel the square, cancel the root. You will get negative 19 over 175. Okay, now you have a minus sign again, a lot of minus sign here or negative sign. Then cancel the square, cancel the root, 0.08. Alright, and let's look at our last example here. Okay, I'll move my picture on the middle. Okay. Now, there's no square. So what we need to do is we need to change them into a square. So 0.25 is the same as 0.5. A to the power of 4, a squared. Square. Okay. Now, do we need the absolute value sign here? Yes or no? Is this an odd number? Yes or no? No. So if it's a no, then no need. Okay. Now let's look at example number 10 or exercise number 10. We need to change this into a square. Right, so this will become 3 over 4. So 9 and 16, 3 squared, 4 squared, x to the power of 6, x to the power of 3, or x cubed, y to the power of 4 squared. OMG, we have an odd number here. Okay, so you have to be careful when you have an odd exponent. Now we will have 3 over 4 absolute value of x cubed, and then y to the power of 4. Right, so from the questions that we have, we only have one example that needs an absolute value. All right, remember, if the result has an odd exponent, you have to put the absolute value sign. All right, very simple. All right, if you want, you can check the work here. All right, if you want to copy, you can check your work. All right. Okay. All right, always remember, number 1, we only put absolute value on variables if we want the positive value only. Number 2, we put an absolute value sign on the variable if it is a square root with an odd exponent. Like previously, we had an odd exponent as our result. So we have to put an absolute value sign. Alright, so thank you for watching and continue to stay safe and healthy. See you again on our next video. Bye bye.